Yeah, Brandy, I appreciate the opportunity to come and visit with you and talk to you about what Community National Bank has to offer as far as different financing arrangements and working with other institutions and working with Eck Real Estate and seeing what we can do to partner with all those other organizations and work for the best of what our customer is after.
Great, great. So, so there's so many different programs out there, and there's some things that a lot of people aren't familiar with. There's government programs, if I'm correct.
There are.
There are government programs, and there's. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how the government programs and you fit together?
Community National Bank works directly with farmers in providing financing for all different facets of agriculture, whether we're doing annual operating loans, like lines of credits for crop inputs, purchase of feeder livestock, and then we also do loans for term operating, which might be for like breeding livestock, machinery and equipment, and then we also provide financing for purchase of real estate, and that's where Eck Real Estate comes in, as well as us working with these other governmental agencies, such as the Farm Service Agency and Farmer Mac. Using those government programs allows us to do things that the bank really can't do ourselves, and that the biggest part of that is providing long-term fixed interest rates, which really helps our customer meet their financial goals and provide them a fixed interest rate to help them with their financial ability and planning for what their future holds for them.
Sure. So in the real estate world, we hear a lot about Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. Can you tell me about the Farmer Mac program?
Yes, you mentioned Freddie Mae and Fannie. You mentioned Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are used in the housing programs.
Correct.
We use Farmer Mac, which is the secondary market for farms.
Okay.
So if we go through FSA, the Farm Service Agency, which is a agency in the Department of Agriculture, if we get those loans guaranteed, then we can use Farmer Mac programs to go in and fix those interest rates.
Okay.
And we can go anywhere from 10, 15, 20 to 30 years and fix those rates, which is very beneficial for our customers.
Sure.
That we're looking at serving.
Sure, and I've even heard of longer rates or longer terms as well.
The Farm Service Agency offers 40 years.
Great.
And with Farmer Mac, we can go a maximum of 30 years.
Gotcha. So, in order to, a lot of the times that there's so many more dollars to put down on a farm if you're buying some real estate. So 20% can be a lot of money when you're trying to buy a pretty good chunk of land.
It is a lot of money.
So how are the programs fit together so that we can get past or around the down payment?
Okay. For somebody starting out in agriculture, we know it's very capital intensive. It means it takes a lot of money to get involved in agriculture.
Absolutely.
So the Department of Agriculture has some great programs to help beginning farmers get established, get started. They define a beginning farmer as somebody that has been involved in agriculture and the management of a farming operation a minimum of 3 years, but not more than 10.
Okay.
And they can't own more than 30% of the average farm size in the county where they're purchasing the land.
Okay.
So in Osage County, 30% average farm size is 130.8 acres.
So if they owned more than that, they would not qualify for that program?
Not the Beginning Farmer Down Payment Program. Let me talk about the Beginning Farmer Down Payment Program. In that program, let me use an example of a farm that may cost $400,000. Okay. The individual has to put 5% down. FSA finances the next 45%. It's 45%, and they do that at a 5% rate for 20 years. And then the bank comes in and does the remaining 50%. And then we look at what interest rates are presently and what we can do with Farmer Mac. And right now we're getting interest rates with the blend between the Farm Service Agency and ourselves in the 3.6, 3.7% range, and those are fixed rates for the life of the loan.
Wow,
Okay,
that's
and that's
incredible.
Yes, it is very good. For the Farm Service Agency part, the 1.5%, and then ours, to get a 3.6, 3.7% rate, that's great.
That's phenomenal, because I know that they're a lot higher in other
They are.
places.
So that's beginning farmer down payment.
Mm-hmm.
If the individual doesn't have the 20,000 or the 5% to put down, then what we can look at doing is what's called the joint participation program.
Uh-huh.
That offers 100% financing, where we would do 50%, Farm Service Agency does 50%. Their rate is a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
It's at 2.5%. And then again, with our blended rate with theirs and the Farm Service Agency, we're still looking at that, say 3.7, 3.8%. And then the Farm Service Agency loans is going to be spread over a 40-year repayment, and ours is still going to be 30 years. So it's great rates
Sure.
with the fixed rates for the life of those loans.
Sure. Now, are you guys able to, like some of the FSA programs and things, do an annual payment so that when you harvest or when you sell your livestock, you can make those payments then instead of worry about a monthly type payment? Is that something
Exactly.
you guys offer?
We tailor the payment timeframes around when the farm commodities are being produced and sold.
Gotcha.
So let's say they might have somebody that runs a fall cow-calf operation. Maybe they're selling their calves in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we might time those payments around the April, May timeframe. Maybe we have somebody that produces a lot of crops,
Uh-huh.
particularly wheat. We could plan part of those payments around the July timeframe when they're
Great.
selling those crops.
That can alleviate a lot of stress, I'm
And,
sure.
and then another thing we'll look at is if some individuals in the area have substantial non-farm income, and we may blend those payments with the farm commodities that they're producing, as well as getting some monthly payments from the non-farm income that they're earning as well.
That's terrific. That's terrific. That ought to help people a lot. So, when we buy a farm, there's a lot to it, right? There's so much more than just buying your land, buying your house, buying your building. So now we need to buy a herd of cows, and we need a tractor to feed them, and we need all of these things. Does any of those programs fit together to where you can put it all in one bundle and get your equipment, your livestock, and everything?
We do. When I put together a financing package for us, and we look with the Farm Service Agency, we'll look for the betterment of our customer. We're going to try to do the best that we can do to keep them viable and have the financial ability for success down the road. So we may put together a financing package that not only includes the farm that they're wanting to purchase, but maybe the cattle, the equipment, and inputs for their operation that they might need to put their crops in or buy feeder livestock.
So you're setting them up to just hit the ground and start their farm.
We want to do a full package financing. Part of that financing might come from the Farm Service Agency. They might do part of the operating, we might do part of it. We're going to
Sure.
tailor it at whatever's best for that customer.
Absolutely, that's terrific. That's terrific. So we hear so much on the news now about different types of farming, and we're kind of growing into a different area with that. We're seeing a lot more non-traditional farms.
We do.
Do you have programs to help with that, or have you seen any of those?
The Farm Service Agency reaches out to groups of individuals that they call underserved.
Uh-huh.
That could include anywhere from women
Uh-huh.
to certain ethnicity groups.
Mm-hmm.
And so we work with them as far as these financing packages, because they get the same interest rates, they get the same rates and terms, but sometimes with availability of funding, there might be funds that might be more readily available for those different underserved groups than what there might be for others. And then we do finance different types of agricultural industries out there. I mean, it could be anything from the traditional row crop, cow-calf operation, to anything to like bee production.
Yeah.
Raising bees and producing honey.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of different things coming up now with even grape vineyards or whatever that we see.
Definitely is.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I'm sure that can be difficult to try to find.
There are a lot of requirements within the Farm Service Agency. They want to make sure that the individual has the knowledge and capabilities to go out there and succeed at what they're doing.
Sure.
And so one of the things that they look at as far as eligibility is that they have management experience in what kind of operation they're proposing. So they would need to be able to document that for a minimum of 3 years that they have management experience, and let's just say for like a cow-calf producer. So that they would go out there and be able to document that they've been working, let's say for instance, on a parent's farm. And they've been there, they've been raised on the family farm, they have experience with producing cow-calf, where they're selling feeder calves, and they know they've got experience when maybe mom and dad was gone at managing the operation. Maybe they've done some things as far as a herd health program, maybe run the vaccination program, kept the cattle healthy, and went out there and looked at what kind of feed was going to best be fed for those animals to keep them healthy and reproducing as they would need to be.
Yeah.
So I've worked for the Farm Service Agency for almost 33 years before I retired there and came to work for the bank a year ago. And so I've got a lot of the knowledge that it takes to go through the application process and know what that individual needs at the Farm Service Agency as well as what our bank needs.
Sure. Well, and I think the purpose of this video today is to help people understand, because it can be so overwhelming. It can be so overwhelming to see that stack of paperwork that somebody hands you, or to find that land or find that home, or what are we going to do and how are we going to get it done. And so having this knowledge that you've been able to provide us today is wonderful, and as far as the programs that are available not only by you but by the government as well, and the services that you guys provide.
Yeah, and the other thing that I have some knowledge on, a year ago, the bank, Community National Bank, went in and applied because our loan volume was large enough, and our losses on those guaranteed loans was small enough. In fact, we didn't have any losses.
That's terrific.
That we applied to the National Farm Service Agency office for what's called a preferred lender program. And with that program, it benefits the customers that we're trying to serve because it expedites their application being processed, as well as streamlines the application, so it takes less paperwork to go through the Farm Service Agency and get some kind of a decision made.
I don't know about you, but the worst part of any job, I think, is the paperwork, right?
A lot of times it is. When you work in it for a long period of time, you get used to it.
Sure.
But I know how it can be overwhelming for that customer when they look at those forms and say, geez, I can't do this.
Absolutely.
But you know, sometimes it's just the time initiative that it takes, and just to dedicate some time to go through it and complete it as you go through, and we can help with that process.
Sure. Yeah, and that's part of having a knowledgeable real estate agent, a knowledgeable lender, is to be able to find those, identify that, and we'll take you by the hand and we'll help you out. We appreciate you taking your time out to watch this video. Thank you.